Well, a happy Friday as we all grimace with the Mets as winners of 4 straight. It's Evan and Tiki on the Fan.
I see what you did there.
Yes, C-Mac, we did. There's no Evan, there's no Tiki, there's not even Loogie. But there is Chris McMonagle and Sean Morash here with you for the next 4 hours plus, taking you up until Yankee baseball between the Yankees and Red Sox tonight on the Fan. Paulie Rosenberg, Rami with us as well. Big Mac, first of all, hello.
Hello.
Credit to you. Hard hat guy.
That's right.
Blue collar guy. You did
Lunch
the overnight.
pail guy, blue collar guy, hard working guy, all in guy for the morning show. If they have any doubts, all in guy.
All in.
That's right.
Yeah, so Chris has been all over the map. He took you through the overnight on the Fan. You could go check out that show on the Odyssey Rewind app if you think his takes stink here.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had better ones on the overnight. Did a little guest spot there with Stu and
I was
Gio,
brought into the morning show this morning, half asleep, in my slept-in big orange T-shirt. I probably look like a big orange slob, but that's okay.
That's all right.
That's good.
Stu Gotts want your job too on the overnight?
I feel comfortable that he's cool without my job. I don't think I have to worry about Stu Gotts for that one.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm feeling good. Feeling good.
And now you're here.
Feeling good.
And you're a fan favorite in this time slot.
Absolutely.
You know, as I've now had to live in the shadows of you for a long time.
Well, it's a big shadow, unfortunately for you. And yes, I mean, listen, you remember the one time when you filled in with Evan for Craig back in the day when I was obviously Big Mac and part of the Carton and Roberts show, and me and you went at it, and you recognized that my fan base was all over you. All over social media. You took on the wrong guy. So, yes, we all know I'm beloved here, and I'm glad to be back, part of Tiki and Evan, your show, Evan and Tiki. But that's until he gives me a book, it's Tiki and Evan. That's how it goes.
Oh, yeah, because
until I get a signed book. He's forgiven. I'm cool with him, but it's Tiki and Evan until I get the book.
Do you want one? I have so many My Mets Bibles.
I want a personally signed book from Evan.
I have so many signed My Mets Bibles that I now use them to jack up my car when I need to change a tire. I mean, they're just everywhere in my house. They're just exploding.
Right.
So there you go.
Okay.
Well, we got plenty to get into today.
We do.
Yes, we will talk Yankees ahead of Yankees Red Sox. Mm-hmm. Yes, we will even talk a little football. Training camps, the first weeks are basically wrapping up. But we do have to start, Chris, with the OMG Mets and last night versus the Atlanta Braves. Let's be real. This is a game that the same old Mets would have lost. Coming off a sweep of the Subway Series at home, the Braves started a 4-game series. The Braves obviously have been scuffling as well, the amount of ground that the Mets have made up. And last night, they trail, and Thor's the big hit, come back. The idea that they get away with what I thought was a horrendous call in the ninth on the swipe of third.
Right.
And then to have Laureano look like he had never played right field before on that game-winning hit in the 10.
He looked like the kid from Mighty Ducks who couldn't stop on the skates. I don't know if I've ever seen someone just run past a ball that poorly in right field. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was reminiscent of Alex Verdugo in left field versus the Orioles before the break.
No, it wasn't. He fell down.
Either way, the point of that is those are breaks, man.
Mm-hmm.
And the Braves,
oh, no doubt.
I don't think any Met fan could disagree with this. For most of our lifetime, including 2 years ago, have been the Mets' daddy. And even though the Braves have scuffled, I think many who would have been riding the high of the Met sweep of the Yankees, we could have short memories. Go back. They still split with the Marlins. The Mets play Atlanta last night in a start of a 4-game series. They haven't won a 4-game series all year, and have those things go right. Mm-hmm. Chris, it's time to dream a little bigger about the New York Mets, and they have to win this series if they're winning a game like that last night.
No, 100%. It is time to dream big. That's kind of, you mentioned I did the overnight. That's where I was all morning long. The Mets, it's time to dream big. And those wins, it's significant. Honestly, back-to-back nights, for whatever the Yankee-Met rivalry is, we know for the history of that rivalry, for the most part, this side of Malicki in 2013, the Mets have been owned by the New York Yankees. Yeah. The Mets have been owned by the Atlanta Braves. And to pound the Yankees into misery where we're clamoring for George Steinbrenner to be resurrected from the grave, and then follow it up with a win that, to your point, in the 9th inning, runner on second, the Mets are losing that baseball game their entire history against the Atlanta Braves, and it feels like it. And instead, watching the game, I felt like they were going to find a way to win the game. And they get a break at third base. Yes, they get a break in the outfield. But
no apologizing for that.
Good teams get breaks.
Right.
Like, that's how it works. And they've manifested this thing, whether it's Grimace, as you joked about in the open, or it's OMG, or whatever the case may be. They have manifested this resurrection of a season to the point where they are the team that wins these games. The Braves are the team that make us laugh, pulling terrible suicide squeezes and dropping the ball in the outfield, not the Mets. And that's significant to me. And when you start to see games like this where they don't even, this offense has been the force that's driven them here. They get 2 hits. It's Lindor's home run. That's it. Sale's mowing them down. And yet still, they figure out a way to win these games. I think it is time to put Plan A, which was build for the future, on the back burner. And Plan B, which is winning while they try, to be the main purpose of these next few days and the main purpose of this trade deadline. Give this team not just mediocre help, not just guys who are, slightly significant, slightly better in the bullpen. It is time to look at it with the eye of how do I make this team dangerous in the postseason?
It is hard to argue that, Chris, and I'll take it a step further. I laughed. I'll be the first one to raise my hand a couple weeks ago when guys like Sal or Loogie would come on here and say, I have the Braves now. I have my eyes set on the Braves now. Mm-hmm. And here you are, a game back in the loss column with 3 more in your building. This weekend should be now that pivotal point, and that should be that time where the Mets firmly stamp it. There is no way of getting around this. Evan brought this up yesterday. All the 4-game series the Mets played, including this past weekend versus the Marlins, 2 games apiece, 2 games apiece. This Atlanta Brave team, you have them on the ropes now.
No doubt.
They are scuffling. There are people in Atlanta waking up today and calling their sports radio saying, if Ted Turner was still alive. That's exactly what's going on with Atlanta Brave baseball right now. And they're the ones fumbling and stumbling, looking like the same old Mets. This game tonight, your ace is back. All I've heard is that Kodai Senga is your ace. They've missed him all year. How many innings he throws, we'll worry about that later.
Yep.
Not everything's positive. We'll get to that in a minute with the bullpen. Your ace comes back tonight. That should enthuse this ball club and get them all pumped up. Mm-hmm. This is a weekend at home, which I'm sure the crowds are only going to grow and grow and grow. Tonight is fireworks night at Citi Field. Yes, well, that's why do you think Evan is off today? He's taking the family to fireworks night. You want to make sure you didn't have to rush over there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, God forbid you rush over there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, good Lord. Well, the fireworks at the end of the night,
He has to fill up the scorecard.
Believe me, I'm well aware.
Yes, those poor kids looking for Mr. Softy. The wife's got to take him because he can't sit down and miss a pitch.
I know.
But that's the kind of situation the Mets are in tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think it's asking too much. The Atlanta Braves have owned you. You have them on the ropes. They're playing the way the Mets typically play in this spot. 3 of 4 is a minimum now.
No, I'm with you because if they don't follow up these 2 games and specifically the last one last night against the Braves, then it doesn't mean anything. And to be in this position right now where they're surging, the Braves are faltering, if in this moment in this building they lose the next 3 games, God forbid.
Right.
I mean, you are talking about the ultimate buzzkill, the ultimate wet blanket. I'm totally with you. It's about building momentum, and right now they have all of it. And if off of that win, we get back to the same old Braves own the Mets, and the Braves, even while they're scuffling, find themselves. No, it's almost like it's almost like the losses is more damning than the wins will be positive. It's almost like you can't allow this momentum to stop. So I mean, whether it's 2 out of 3 or a split, I hear what you're saying. You got to win at least one of the next 2, and for the most part, I'm with you. I mean,
it's more
you can't leave this. You can't leave this series without feeling like you've made ground and made an impression on who you are and who the Braves are.
No, and look, the Braves rallying to win 3 straight, that would be a scenario where, any young guy goes online and then meets a girl off the app and you realize the picture is from 10 years ago. Okay, that's a major letdown. That cannot happen in this spot, Chris. And this is where I'm gonna spin this and I'm gonna give you a little negative.
Okay.
You knew I couldn't get through the whole first segment without any Met negativity. Sorry. Here's the deal. This is Major League Baseball. And you're seeing it with the Yankees probably doing an extreme right now, and you see it with the Red Sox, the Orioles. You've seen it with the Braves right now. The roller coaster that we live through in 162 games is real. It is so hard, unless you are the most dominant of teams, of which the Mets are not, to go from April to the end of September and roll. We all agree, right?
Of course,
and maybe the Phillies have been that team this year.
The peaks and valleys don't have to be like the Yankees, but there will be peaks and valleys.
The Mets are going to hit a skid at some point over the next 2 months. How long that skid is, who knows? Hopefully it's not a month long. Maybe it's 2 weeks long. And you look at the schedule, there are times in September where you could see it getting real dicey. To anticipate that kind of skid coming, is only furthermore proof of why you are hot now versus a team that is a peer-to-your team right now to take advantage. That is why this series now cannot be a split, because you almost have to assume the big losses are coming, and they will come. Now is the time, as you look up and down, the Diamondbacks make a deal last night for a big-time reliever. They're only a game and a half back of you, and oh, by the way, they're on the outside of the playoffs looking in. You need to pad your resume now so that when that skid comes, you are in good position and you're not punting away the playoff position you've built yourself back into.
100%. But to me, I take it a step further. I think that's the macro conversation. That's the right in front of us conversation.
It's the Chris Macro.
Chris Macro, sure.
Macro monocle.
Not bad. Macro monocle. That's not bad.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty clever.
It's easier.
That's good for you.
It's better than the lazy Big Mac.
Well,
get a little creative?
I mean, yeah, well, C-Mac isn't that much more creative, to be totally honest with you. I haven't really gone into the well of creative names. I don't know. What's your big nickname there, Sean?
I'm too good for nicknames.
Morass? Is that the clever nickname we've got for you?
Do not take me back to John F. Kennedy Elementary School.
But yes, they need to win the series. They need to pad the stats. They need to be in the standings. Forget that, because you're right. Like the streak will come. The offense won't be getting the play they're getting from Iglesias and Taylor and Bader and all these guys who are having career years for the entire year. I need to pad the roster. That's what I'm focused on right now. It is trade deadline. You mentioned moves are being made. Like, I'm not just focused on this Atlanta Braves series. You're 100% right. Everything you're saying is right. But I don't need to pad the standings as much as I need to help the roster. They just had an injury to the bullpen.
Huge.
Right? I think Budo, he was, for me, the hero of last night. We haven't mentioned his name yet, which is unfair. His ability to come in and not only get out of a jam in the 6th inning with 2 on and nobody out, but to then give you 2 more innings and get you to the 9th. That's a Michael King type weapon.
Yeah.
That's a weapon.
That's a good
inside a bullpen that can be absolutely dynamic and help you in big games where and it helps you furthermore. Like for now, the rest of this series, they're in much better standing in their bullpen because they got 3 innings out of Buto. So that they need to help the bullpen. They need to me, I want to get a big-time starting pitcher. I am done with the idea of building for the future being the prime objective. When special things happen, when you have Grimace and the song and balls falling in the outfield and the worst players on your team having career years, bar none, every single one of them, special things are happening. Lindor is having the best stretch of his career, not just in a Mets uniform, his career. When these things happen, you have to adjust. And when I look at this team, you mentioned the ace coming back. What if they got a legitimate ace? And now you're talking about Skubal, and you're talking about Sanga and Severino in a playoff series to go with adding a guy in the bullpen. Now is the time to look at legitimate starting pitching. Now is the time to look at possible rentals, things you never would have considered possible heading into the season. Pad the standings, pad the roster.
Pad the roster, no doubt. And for those of you who may have missed it or you are aware, the trade deadline really got into full effect yesterday. A.J. Puck, who was obviously a big-time reliever, who has pitched since moving out of the rotation for Florida into the bullpen, been one of the best swing-and-miss guys in baseball. He goes to Arizona for 2 prospects within their top 15 of their farm system. So clearly that's already kind of setting the market for what these relievers are going to cost. What are you smirking at?
Just wanted to do a quick check here. You killed Ted Turner. He is still alive and well.
No,
so I just want to make sure
Ted Turner's still alive?
That, yes. Ted Turner is not dead. So
how old is Ted Turner?
I mean, 84. So just wanted to clear that up.
Ted Turner is still alive?
Yeah, just wanted to clear that up. I understand it. It was quick. We moved on from it. But yes, Ted Turner is still alive.
Well,
so
I want to apologize to the Turner family. I'm so used to seeing him at Braves games. Clearly, yes. I don't think he's been there much. Maybe he's up in a box now at Truist Field.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow there, but I just wanted to make sure we got that out.
Look, I don't want anybody killing off my grandparents, so I am sorry to the Turner family. Yeah. I thought for sure I had a good Steinbrenner choke lineup for Ted Turner. Alive and well. So
should have checked in on that.
Braves do it for Ted.
Yes.
Okay? Nonetheless, the rotation, the bullpen moves. So Randy Arozareno also gets traded last night, outfielder. Here's the deal, though. The Mets got dealt bad news today, and you alluded to it.
Yeah.
Nunes has been, when you factor in the ups and downs of Edwin Diaz this season, Nunes has been the biggest revelation of that bullpen.
Yep.
I would argue, most important part of that bullpen. He has gotten the high leverage outs in that bullpen, and he was placed on the IL today about 2 hours before the show here with a pronator muscle strain, or a pronator muscle strain.
I think it's pronator.
So I did what anybody would do. I would say, I never heard of that. What is that? So that is caused by overuse or improper technique or
Sure.
acute trauma. Okay, doesn't really shock you. It is a forearm
He's a pitcher.
muscle into the elbow.
None of this shocks me.
The typical recovery on that, and I'm sure that Mendy will spin this however he wants, is some guys can start throwing again in 2 weeks, sure, but typically for a strain of that kind, from everything I'm reading, and
Yeah, I got you.
call me MD,
We understand.
6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks.
So start doing the math on
Before
6
he's
to 8
back
weeks.
or before? Yeah. Before he's throwing. Because
this
you
is-
said throwing in 2 weeks. Is it throwing in 6 to 8 weeks? Or is they expect him back on a mound in 6 to 8 weeks?
Chris, I wasn't ready for a real question.
Okay,
I've got to have to
I'm
look
sorry.
at that. That's still an important deal.
Let me mental note. Do not fact check Sean. Got
Whether it
Write
is
down.
back in 6 to 8 or throwing for 6 to 8,
Yep.
that tells me you're not getting a lot of Nunes before the playoffs.
No, I agree.
So if that is going to be the case,
Yeah.
and you just saw the price that an AJ Buck went for,
Yep.
I have a hard time envisioning the Mets are getting more than one really good bullpen arm, considering everybody in baseball needs bullpen arms.
Right.
And that is going to be a major bugaboo for this team. And thank God for Budo coming out of the bullpen right now.
Right.
So the Met bullpen is going to blow games the rest of the year, and I'm not so sure that the deadline is going to completely fix this. This Nunes injury could be a complete blow to them, even though if it's not as sexy as, let's say, a Francisco Lindor type injury.
Right.
It's a problem. And the Mets do need to add, but man, you're seeing these names fly off. I'm not so sure this is going to be as sexy a deadline for Met fans as maybe you anticipated.
No, listen, I don't even think I'm anticipating it. I'm making a plea, much like Pete Alonso has made, much like Nimmo has made. I don't know Stearns' mindset. I'll be the first to tell you, we haven't seen him. He's been in Milwaukee. I don't know how he's going to treat this deadline. I don't know how he feels. I mean, I think if he had his druthers and did what he wanted to do, he would have sold. I think that's what he wanted. I think the signing of Severino, the signing of J.D. Martinez had it in the back of his mind, assets to acquire more.
Absolutely. That's why you saw the guys in 1 year
100%. And 2 months ago, that was the conversation.
Right.
The conversation has changed. I don't think anybody thinks he's selling at that level anymore. And I think pretty much everyone agrees he's buying. But at what level? And if you can't get the bullpen, do you go get the ace, where there'll be probably a little bit less competition for guys who are under control? That's the other thing. If the Mets have this long-term plan, you go pay prospects. Part of the reason you get prospects is not only to fill your team, but to make possible trades. And you have legitimate prospects. They've had terrible years and have injuries.
Right,
but if you can get a pitcher who's under control for the next 2 years, who's young and talented, that is building your team up.
And they're the one team that maybe can trade for a Garrett Crochet and give him what he wants, which is, I want to be extended before I agree to pitch in the playoffs.
Who else is going to want to pay him? That's what Steve Cohen does. Go out and pay him and trade the prospects.
That's what we've been told Steve Cohen does.
Well, he pays. Come on. He pays.
Okay. I mean,
it's inarguable.
They still have not signed the biggest free agent in the market at any point in any of his offseasons.
They paid Scherzer the highest contract ever to a starting pitcher in
They
history.
didn't get Yamamoto, did they?
No, they did not go and get Yamamoto.
Okay.
Because they didn't view this year. That's the whole point. The whole crux of this is the point of this season was not about winning. Winning is always in the atmosphere, but it wasn't the driving force of what this year was supposed to be.
Can I ask you
It
something?
has to be now.
I'm not actually. I'm just going to ask you.
Sure.
Do you even know what crux means?
The crux of it is like the heart of it, the main point of it.
I feel like that's a saying we all say, the whole crux of it. I don't think anybody knows what crux means.
I don't know where. I do not know where it comes from. I don't know, country of origin. If this were a spelling bee, I wouldn't know any of that.
Latin?
I use it in a sentence, maybe. It could be Latin. But I think the crux is like the heart of it. The main part of it would be the crux, the heart of the matter.
It is Latin.
It is Latin.
It is Latin.
Can you give me the definition?
Crux, a puzzling or difficult problem, an unsolved question, an essential point requiring resolution or resolving an outcome, or a main or central figure of an argument.
Main or central figure of an argument. So I'm using the fourth.
The fourth definition.
The fourth purpose.
The
of
point.
crux.
Yeah,
That's
point
okay.
is, when we say the whole crux of it, we don't really know what it means.
It's there.
He discarded all but the essential cruxes of his argument.
Say the crux of the argument.
888-808-101.
Don't listen. You don't want to. You can't kill Ted Turner. Not have an answer to when Nunes is actually going to throw on the mound after bringing up the stat.
I told you it could be 6 to 8 weeks.
And then come after me for my usage of crux. Okay,
Suck it!
There you go. You can't have it all. Just sit the crux argument out.
The crux of Ted Turner's life is he's alive. And your call's next on the Mets. Their trade deadline rumors end. Is a split now even acceptable versus the Atlanta Braves? It's Evan and Tiki with Sean and Chris here on The Fan.